Have you any idea how successful censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?
People of the White Mountains, you have waited long enough. This October, prepare yourselves for Wicked Mountains Movie Nightmares. 10 nights of horror and fright on 20 acres. Brought to you by Big Kid, 1028 Productions and Entertainment, and Camp Grayson Pinetop Lakeside. Costume auditions for paid cast and crew will be held at Camp Grace Saturday, August 27th at 2 p.m. Dig out your costume or cosplay and bring your A game. We're also interviewing for food vendors and staff. If you would like to be a sponsor for this event, please contact us at Big Kid 928-368-5700 or visit us at wickedmountains.com. See you there. Hi, what's going on? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Captain Doc Skinner on board the Starship Pariah, and this is the Doc Force. Yes, it's going to be an interesting topic today. Something that I think has affected many people around at least the country. I don't know about the world. Maybe we might find out tonight. And I want to discuss it. It may get metaphysical. I don't know. So I'm going to need some help tonight. So I've got Brooks Agnew joining us this evening. Yes, surprise. So he'll be joining us in just a bit. But let's do some roll call, and then I got to show a video. I'll do it when we get Brooks on here in just a moment. So first on board, we've got Gary. Thank you so much for coming on board. Appreciate it. And then we got Spaceman. Spaceman, this will be interesting. Ray rifle heal people with sound waves, but it can work both ways and be used to cause illness as well. Yes, we're going to dabble in that tonight. And by the way, Spaceman, I finally got your email, and we're going to show your stuff. Okay, we're going to talk about it. Interesting stuff. All right. Alien Bump is here. Welcome. Elise Marie, welcome aboard, dear. We got Simon's in the house. What's up? We got Lisa V from the big state. Hey, girl. We've got Tessa Nicole's here. Welcome. And we've got Clive. Clive's here. Welcome, Clive. And we got Malia's here. Cheers. Hello, dear. Christina, British and proud from across the pond. We've got Terry Reesing, who is the original OG chat room girl. She's been here since the beginning. We've got, let's see, everybody's saying hello to everybody. You know how much I love that. We got Dave Dennis from Australia. We down under. Hello. All right. So, yeah. All right. So what ignited tonight's topic? Okay. So for some reason, I woke up and just felt dread, like hopelessness, emptiness, sadness. I mean, it was just atrocious. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Well, I made a post and I said, has anybody ever felt this way? And it turns out a lot of people felt this way today. So we're going to talk about that. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on Brooks because I want him to see this too, what we're going to show from Spaceman's email. It's interesting stuff. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, Brooks Agnew.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. Sorry for the long wait. It's kind of my way to wait for people to jump on, you know, they're coming at the last second. So how are you, sir?
Pretty good. It's been a long day, but I like these spontaneous invitations. So here I am.
Yes. Now, you know, maybe we could talk about this in a bit, but you know, you had some issues with the tube of you, and if you're cool with that, I'd like to dabble in that a little bit later if you're okay with it.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah, you know, you're spontaneously coming on, which I love it. I appreciate it. So you probably didn't understand what you were stepping into tonight. I did say it might get metaphysical. I don't know, but I would definitely need your help if it does. So I woke up this morning and I just had this. I mean, it was in the depression category, but I'm sitting here racking my brain going, why do I feel this way all of a sudden? And I mean, it was almost debilitating. Then I found out that my stepdad was in the hospital getting some brain scans because he's having some pains in his head. So I don't know if it had to do with that. But once I made a post because I was just curious. I was like, has anybody ever just felt utter dread or emptiness just for no reason at all? And the response was crazy. A lot of people felt that today. And some were saying it's the doom before the gloom. You know, you just have that fear. Like some people, before a family member dies, you'll have something happen. And that happened to me when my father died. We were walking through the lobby of the hotel on our way to hospice to see him. And it was like I got hit by a Mack truck to where I kind of stumbled back against the wall in the lobby. And something just made me ask my wife at the time. I said, what day is it? What time is it? She goes, it's February 11th. And I'm like, I think he's gone. And we drove down the highway on a taxi and got to the hospice and he had passed. So it was similar to that, but everybody I know is okay. And why I wanted to bring it up, I would have just let it go. But why I brought it up is because of so many responses of people saying, yes, I'm feeling this today. And I've felt this other days. And there's no explanation for it. So you being the guest tonight, what do you, and here, I'm going to zoom out because it's like everybody's looking up my nose. There we go. I look like a monster in comparison. All right, now I look a little more even. So what do you think this is? I have some conspiracy theories that I want to dabble in just for fun. But what do you think it is?
Well, There are a lot of reasons. It can be the Schumann resonance, the resonance of the earth itself, the vibrations of the earth can make people anxious. It can be electromagnetic radiation put off from the sun. That can certainly mess with people and make them sensitive to it. It can also be a human consciousness wave. We're kind of having a lot of conflict, not only in our government, but also in the world. For a couple hundred years, we've had this independent situation, this experiment called America going on. But this is kind of a side track to the original timeline now, isn't it? In 1775, it was a little bit different world. It was all ruled by one man and had been for thousands of years. And all of a sudden, this upstart little set of colonies on the other side of the ocean decides, hey, we're going to be independent. How about that? Well, of course, they sent their mountain of army over, and they could have smashed us like a bug, but they didn't. We ended up changing the timeline, and what I call the global syndicate's been trying to get the nation to fall ever since, and various things. Wars, of course. We were able to avoid ever being bombed directly since about 1812. So that allowed us to have virtually unlimited supply chain, and we've been able to sustain ourselves in kinetic conflict. So since the end of World War II, the conflict has gotten metaphysical. What they have done is infiltrated our government with demons, I'm going to call them. They have no heart. They have no soul. Their goal, their objective in life is to see as many of us despair and die as possible. And we've seen that for the last couple of years. We've been through that, haven't we? We went through a flu that was engineered to hurt us. We found out there were some pretty common medications that could keep us safe. So we were, and that frustrated them. So they decided to use the cure to hurt us. And now there have been 128 million Americans vaccinated with something that it's impossible to ignore the news that lots of people have been injured and lots of people have died because of this
thing.
mRNA that's teaching our bodies to make something inhuman inside of us that is blocking the blood flow and killing us. And if it doesn't block the blood flow, as it turns out, these clots, and we just found this out this week, these clots are not human tissue. They're made of metal. The body is being taught by the mRNA to gather metals that normally we would get rid of because we're exposed to them all the time. Chromium and manganese and all. We get rid of them. We slough them out of our body. But this mRNA teaches our cells to build structures inside our veins and arteries out of these metals. So they don't leave. They accumulate over weeks and months and months. And what's happening is people are starting to die, and they're going into these, into the morgue, and then they're going to the mortician to be embalmed, and they can't get the embalming fluid in because these clots are blocking the fluid. So they are pulling these clots out, and they're like, 16 inches long and the size of your little finger. They're in your leg and inside your arm and your aorta. And as long as you're fairly sedentary, they just stay in your arteries and kind of slow the blood flow. But if you run around and stuff like an athlete, you shake them loose and they go to a junction and bam, you drop like a sack of potatoes on the field or on the court.
Which there are videos and videos and videos of that.
And you wonder, these are the peak specimens. These are the most talented, most athletic humans on the planet.
Most fit, and they just drop.
They watch what they eat. They exercise regularly. They're in perfect physical health, and they just drop. And it's because of what they're calling the jab. So all of this is creating a kind of despair, kind of a wave of despair that's going around the planet. And what's happening is empaths like you and me and others who are sensitive to those energies, who monitor those energies with our biological transducer, we're picking up on that. And we wake up in the morning and go, oh, wow, I just felt a disturbance in the force. And that's what's affecting us. And you want to push through it. You want to say, look, I'm everything's fine. Everybody's healthy. I have money in the bank. I'm working. I have a job. I'm healthy. Why do I feel this way? it's because of this consciousness wave that's going around the world. And that's exactly what I call the global syndicate. That's exactly what they want. They want us to despair, and it's
Okay.
difficult to
Well,
overcome.
now this is where I wanted to dabble in. Now, the very, very first conspiracy theory that I ever researched while I was in high school was cell towers. This is 92 and
Mhm.
91, 92. Cell towers were going up, and everybody just thought it was great. But there was a before there were people like us and YouTube and all that. There was the Prophecy Club, you know, and the Prophecy Club had some amazing guests. They were right
Sure.
kind of there with Art Bell, but on the religious aspect, and it was just awesome. And they had a gentleman come on and speak about how cell towers, the frequencies are in the same realm as brain frequencies. Okay, so I started researching it, and then I don't remember which year it was. I remember looking back because the Atlanta bombing, the Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay, that's when they had a bunch of cell phone towers up, right? So my theory was if you wanted to use cell phone frequencies to alter people's, thought process, and you wanted to go beyond the language barrier straight to the thought process, what would be the most perfect test subjects? People at the Olympics from all over the world, right? Well, when that bomb goes off, you see everybody jolt, but then it's like they all slowly kind of walk towards the exits. Like there was just there's something telling them stay calm and walk to the exits, and they did. I think there was one like a kid or two running looking for their mom, but other than that, and so I've wondered about that. And we get more and more of these towers going up, and everybody, 5G, and even the people putting up these towers are making videos showing stuff like over in Europe, where you open up the circuit breaker on these lights, and it literally says COVID on there, 19. You know, it makes you wonder. Then you have all these purple lights these black light basically that are being set up throughout the country. I don't know about the world. Um, so that they could see, the and it would if they got pulled over, your veins would be glowing. Supposedly, that's the rumor. But um, it's just we already know we're under so much mind control with TV, film, entertainment, sports, religion. I mean, so many things to where we're being controlled. And the people that you're talking about, the bad guys, they know how to work it well.
Yeah.
Luckily, people
Well,
like us are privy to it, though.
one thing we know about energy is the universe is full of it. But we also know that energy can resonate and form matter, forms protons, forms nitrogen and calcium and oxygen and all the carbon that comes out of stars and ends up filling large clouds, and then there's electrical discharges. There are electrical discharges in these clouds, and planets and stars form. We're watching it, we're observing it. So whereas normally energy is very chaotic and self-destructive, it can resonate along the Fibonacci sequence or along phi 1.618 to 1. And when it does, it becomes constructively interfering and it builds upon itself, and energy then becomes matter. And that's
Mhm.
all the visible universe that we see. Now, of course, the ancient, wow, my screen just went black. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That was wild.
See, it's
Never had
because
that.
we're talking about things. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Uh,
by the way, Goofon's here. You just dropped me $5. This is awesome
all right.
conversation, Doc Skinner. This is what we should be talking about. However, I didn't take the jab, but my father did, and he got clots in his legs. God, I wonder if it was like what you're saying, these long clots. That's just, and
And
Gufon, love
these
you,
are not
brother. Thank you so
human
much.
tissue. These
Thank
are
you so
not
much.
human tissue. This is not blood. This is
Oh, it's not blood. So it's
no,
just
no, no.
metal?
It's metal.
It's not metal mixed with blood. Ooh.
No, it doesn't even have
Now,
much iron in it.
now
If it
is
had iron in it, we could say, oh, it's human tissue. No, very little iron. Most of it is like tin and chromium, and the weird thing about it is they're not all just slick. There's all these little wires coming out of it that hook into the blood vessel walls so the
mhm.
thoughts can kind of stay in place. Now, the reason I bring this up and the reason I bring up resonance is the dark side knows these principles of addition, let's call that, along the golden mean. They know these principles very well, and they use them every single day. They bathe us in their vision of the future to try to get us to add our human energy, because we're also transmitters ourselves. They try to get us to add our human energy to their version of the future, so their version of the future will manifest. Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to manifest our own future, which has love and charity and mercy and
So
peace and
it's all
all the good things.
it's just this.
So what is happening, and this is why I wrote the birth trilogy and the book The Grand Division, what's happening is the human race is beginning to divide. We're dividing into high energy beings and low energy beings. Now, here's the crazy thing is it kind of fulfills ancient scripture by saying the two will be unaware of each other. The light shall shine, but the darkness shall comprehend it not. And don't we see that every single day when we see a press conference? We go, what planet are you living on? That is so different from my reality.
Yeah.
We are separate, but we're living on the same world. And who's resonating with the planet better, them or us? Well, I think we are. I think Earth is a living thing. That's my personal opinion. It fits all the criteria of a living thing. And we resonate with the planet. And where we go, heaven occurs. Heaven, right here on this planet, heaven occurs. Where they go, it's darkness, despair, depression, suicide, trafficking. It's awful. It's terrible. And so we're trying to stay separate right now. And we're getting better at it because we're kind of self-segregating. We like the light. We don't care much for the darkness. We don't even like watching it on TV. If you don't believe me, go look at the stock of the movie theaters and you'll see. Hollywood put out 33 movies this year. But guess what?
33.
Nobody went. Nobody went because they were all crap movies. They all pushed an agenda. And it's evident when you see good movies come out, like, say, Top Gun or Spider-Man or something like that. Boom, it makes like $1.5 billion. Why? Because we'll go to the movies if there's a good movie.
Right.
But look at the ratio. Look what's happened to Hollywood. I call them the global media empire. Why? Because they're pushing that old globalist agenda. And that's what we feel. That's the battle. And it's a spiritual battle. It's a metaphysical battle that we're in. And that's why you wake up in that mood. Well, just know, Doc Skinner, you are not alone. You are loved. You are cared for. And I am your brother. So whatever you're going through, I will help you.
Well, and I love you too. And I even added to my post later when I saw there was so many responses. I was like, folks, I'm okay. It was just I hadn't felt like that since my father passed, and I had checked on my family and everybody was okay, but it dragged on till mid-afternoon, and then it was gone. But I wasn't like, oh,
It's worse at
I'm
night.
so sad. It was more of I'm so sad, but confused about it. Why am I sad?
Yeah.
Why am I depressed? Why do I feel empty?
And it's worse at night, like when you wake up by yourself and it's dark and there's nobody to call. And you just know from experience when the sun comes up, things will be better. But at that moment, it's very tough to, get control of yourself. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Elise Marie had a good question, and maybe you can answer it. She says, there are many natural foods to remove heavy metals and toxins from our bodies, cilantro being one. Do you know of any others? Now, cilantro is what you get at the Mexican restaurants on your nachos, right? The little flower things that are supposed to be decorative, I always take off.
And I understand that this is really weird that you bring that up. I understand that jabbers, these are people that have had the jab.
Yes.
Their taste buds change. And one of the things they don't like the taste of anymore is cilantro.
Well, I'll be damned.
It's not flavorful to them anymore. It's kind of like
bland.
Old socks. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't eat old socks, but I'm saying that
if you were, that's what it probably tastes like.
It's one of those things people don't want to eat when they get jabbed. And you bring up a good question, though, because the body normally gets rid of this stuff. You pee it out, you sweat it out, you get rid of these metals. I mean, we're exposed to them. Look at the world we live in. But there are things out there that can help. There is what we call Ivan and Roxy. Of course,
Mhm.
everybody knows what those are. They're very safe and they've been taken by billions of people. And early on, what this can do is it can help your body slough off what's called the spike proteins. The spike proteins are the outer uh, keys that stick off of the macrophage that carries the mRNA information. And what it does, it ties up these spike proteins so they can't connect. And what
Right.
happens is they end up being sloughed out of the body, and the jab doesn't have its effect on you that it would normally have. But you got to get it early. So if you get the jab, you need to take 10 or 15 days of ivermectin to get rid of these spike proteins. If you've been jabbed 6 months ago or a year ago, uh, we're working on ways right now, and I say we as a scientific community because my PhD is in instrumental analysis. So I have a very close affinity with people like Mike Adams who have analytical labs and who are analyzing these clots. I know what they're doing. I know how they're doing it. I'm familiar with those analytical techniques, inductively coupled plasma and mass spectrometry. That's how we have identified the elements these things are made of. We don't know of a way to get these clots out of the body. We haven't figured it out yet. We think there's a way of detecting them because they're not human tissue. They don't have an affinity for sugar, which all human tissue does.
Mhm.
So there is a scan called a PET scan. It's a positron electron tomography. It uses an isotope with a sugar. And what it does is the isotope will attach itself to sugar in the body. So virtually all your healthy tissue has sugar in it because that's how we run. That's how we get our energy. Unhealthy tissue like cancerous tissue, very dense tissue, or these clots, it shouldn't take up the isotope. So what'll happen is they'll show up as a dark shadow in the scan. So we're thinking that, and we haven't done this yet. We only discovered this metal last week. So we're thinking that a PET scan will pick these clots up.
Well, that's just and if you were to cut them out, would you, or is it like tentacles and
Yeah,
everything?
no, you don't have to cut them out. It's we have experimented with we send a catheter right here under the arm,
Mhm.
and we can send it in right to the heart. In fact, we have a little radio transmitter on the end of the catheter, and we can monitor where that catheter is in your body just to the millimeter.
It makes me think of that Voyager where they shrunk the people down in that old movie in the
Yeah,
50s.
what was that?
The Greatest Voyage or something.
Something like anyway,
Anyway, but yeah.
Andromeda. Yeah, I remember that.
Mhm.
But what happens is we put little grabbers on the end of the catheter so it can go
Mhm.
in and they can grab a hold of, specifically we've been using this for cholesterol deposits, and we can grab them and we can pull them out of this incision in your arm. And when it comes out, it looks like a root to a tree. It's unbelievable. They just pull it out. And then of
Uh,
course the blood flows fine.
no, of
But
course.
it's temporary because these people that have high cholesterol, they just end up clotting or their arteries again.
Mm.
So they have to take something like Lipitrol to keep the cholesterol, which is, by the way, an extremely versatile molecule. It is used all over the body, especially in the brain. The cholesterol is a great molecule, but it can form these kind of lipid fatty deposits in the veins, and they can be removed. So we're
Mhm.
thinking, and like I said, this is very early in the treatment of these clots because they are pulling them out of dead bodies. In fact, 65% of those in the morgue have these clots in them. And we have cross referenced them with the jabbed, and they're all jabbed except one.
Mm.
One wasn't jabbed, but he got a blood transfusion from someone who was jabbed, and he ended up getting the clots. So when, of course, the
Damn.
body's dead, they can grab these clots and pull them out, and that's where we're getting our samples right now. And they're just huge, and they look like a blood clot, except they're white. They have no blood in them. They're not human tissue. Now, here's the key to this thing, and what makes it so dangerous, I think. Of course, I have a degree in nuclear chemistry,
Yes,
and
sir.
I did my postgraduate work at Oak Ridge. So I got to examine like sand from Trinity, which is the first atomic explosion that we did. And I understand
Mhm.
the isotopic and the decay sequence pretty well. But also researched a lot of nuclear blasts. And we've had about 2,600 of them on this planet. That's a lot, isn't it? That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we've only used 2 of them in war, but the rest still screws up the planet. And one thing we realize is they put off an electromagnetic pulse when they blow up. And humans are not susceptible to this. The pulse just goes right through us, nothing happens. But your phone, your car, all the printed circuits that control the power structure, the telephones, traffic management systems, they're all going to be fried
Hmm.
because they have electrical circuits, electrical connections that are picking up the millions of volts that are sitting in the air, and they're trying to process this electricity to ground. And when they do, it's just too much.
Too much. And
I mean, these circuits are designed to handle 2 volts or 5 volts or 10 volts, and you're putting like 750,000 volts on it. It just jumps all the insulators and fries it.
Side note, real quick. What is the year where cars started using this? So when they say you want to have an EMP car, when that can survive that, it's 1970 what?
74.
74. So any car before
75, they
1974.
started going to electronic ignition, which uses a reluctor instead of a set of points. But
Okay.
74 and earlier, we were still using a set of points with like a 14,000 volt coil. Those cars probably will survive because they don't have computers running nothing. You have a
Right.
carburetor. But fuel injection and body control modules, which control everything in your car and the interface between the engine and the fuel management system. And then you have an ECU, which controls your transmission because they're all electronic now too. All
Mhm.
those will be fried. They're not hardened. They will cook. So your car is going to be dead on the road if there's an EMP. So I thought to myself, because I of course was in the Air Force and I've been briefed on what a first strike would look like. A first
Mhm.
strike would look like an EMP blast first to knock
Right.
out, and then a couple of missiles launched from subs to take out command and control, and then long range ICBMs to come in and toast the cities. We don't see that as the strategy anymore because countries like the CCP and the globalists, they don't want to destroy America. They want to have America. So if they blow off an EMP, it's going to take them 10 years to fix the power grid to get the light
Correct.
on.
That's the biggest thing is they're just not prepared. Other places, some people are prepared. I
Yeah.
do know we have backup generators that are just sitting waiting. So if something like that happens, they
Sure.
put in the new ones.
Right.
But it's not on a grand scale like other countries have done. I don't know if Putin did it, but I know somebody did. They've got the bunkers ready. They've got everything ready for all their people.
Yeah.
Here's a thing, Brooks. Another side note, as I'm famous for digressing. When this all goes down, why do you think in the first wars here in America, it was all about bunkers? It was all about community and civil patrol, and everybody looked out for everybody, and everybody was patriotic. And now, if the shit hits the fan, if you're not with the golden ticket to one of the bunkers or something, you're gonna have issues.
Yeah. And
Why did that change?
well, it changed because the strategy changed. It used to be we had a strategy called mutually assured destruction,
Correct.
which was basically, okay, you have 1,000 nukes, we have 1,000 nukes. Whoever fires, the other one's going to be wiped out. Everybody's going to die. No, so it's mutually assured destruction. So we just don't use them because it can't be won. But rogue nations like Iran and North Korea, they don't care about that stuff. They don't care at all. Even China doesn't care. They've said many times we would happily sacrifice 300, 400 million Chinese to defeat America. We would happily do that because we'll make more Chinese. They said that. They just said that last year. So I thought to myself, how have the weapon systems improved? How have they changed where mutually assured destruction is no longer this issue? And then it hit me. It's the clots. And it's not necessarily the EMP because that's still, considered a heavy act of war for which there would be retaliation. But what about 5G? What about if they ramp up the wattage on the 5G and it activates or heats up these clots in your
Is
system?
of metal.
Because now they're metal, they're
Mhm.
receivers,
Right.
and it heats up the blood inside your
They're like
system.
oh my god, you blew my mind. It's like a big receiver antenna. Duh.
Right on.
Sorry, you do this every show. I'm sorry. Go on, go on.
Well, now since last week, since Mike Adams came up with this information and is letting it out. Of course, you can't find it anywhere. You have to listen to my program or Stu Peters or other programs like that to get this information. But it's true. It's real stuff. If this is a weapon system, and if 5G is the key, and Huawei, that's one of the reasons Trump didn't want Huawei. Huawei is the Chinese supplier of 5G equipment. We don't have any of that in our country because Trump blocked it. I don't know what Biden's done. Maybe Biden has said, oh, that was old stuff. Let's get the Chinese stuff in here. The Chinese stuff is capable of much higher power. So an antenna that would normally carry 250 milliwatts, which is enough for your cell phone connections because they're all over town. I get 5G when I go to
Right.
Charlotte. It takes 250 milliwatts and jacks it up to, say, 75 watts. Now you've got something that's hot like a light bulb, and it's radiating this energy, and jabbers with these big clots are picking them up, and their blood's heating up in their system and dying, and they're dropping on the sidewalk by the millions. There have been 128 million adults jabbed in this country. That's a lot of people.
And you know when they kept us in our homes overnight in the darkness, as you say, they were putting up all these new 5G towers with cameras
Everywhere.
and everywhere. And they even did in the cities where you have these big courtyards between buildings and stuff. They have what one of the guys that worked on it called the kill zones.
Right.
And you had 8, 4 on each side as you walk through these 5G hallway of death. As you walk through the valley of death, you should feel
And
no
as
evil
long
kind
as
of
the
thing.
power's low, everybody's happy with it. Fast
Yeah.
internet, instant texting. We love it. We love the 5G. But
Right.
when you start raising the power of it, only purebloods will be walking.
Yeah. Wow.
And think about it. We've had 50 million purebloods come over our border, about 300,000 a month coming over the border now.
Yeah.
They're all
don't have it.
purebloods. None of them have been jabbed.
Yeah.
So if the Americans drop and the illegals are the only ones standing, what happens to the country?
Wow.
Belongs to somebody else.
Wow. Talk about a soft takeover.
And you could do it street by street. You could do it city by city. You won't even
Actually,
have to do it nationwide.
yeah, actually, someone just posted a video of their whole neighborhood, this huge neighborhood that was full and active, 2-3 years ago, and they came back, and the entire neighborhood is fenced off. I mean, you can't get into any of the homes. Now, that I believe is a part of the whole human engineering thing. It's not human engineering. Is that what it's called? Where they kill off a town by taking off the exit ramps on the highway, and then you got all these little humbug towns that are like just deteriorating, and gas stations and hotels are just dilapidated and ready for a rock star music video. But other than that, they're killing off and driving everybody to the cities. Am I right? Is that the term?
Well,
Or is it a
no
different
go
term?
zones. They create these areas where no one goes into them anymore. And
Mhm.
if you go to Detroit, especially up 75, up to Detroit, it hit 696. First time I did, I usually go up another way, but the first time I did it was about 3 years ago, and I was driving into Detroit from this area, and it looked like a damn war zone. It was
Mhm.
the overpasses were all blocked off with old dunnage. Automotive companies use dunnage to ship like things like door panels and headliners, and when that model changes, the dunnage becomes obsolete. Normally, it goes to the scrapyard and it's recycled, but on these overpasses, they use the dunnage to create barricades,
Hmm.
and the buildings. All the glass is gone out of the buildings, and the buildings, even 10-story buildings, covered with graffiti, like out of a movie set. Unbelievable. Big gaping holes in roofs where houses have caught on fire and never been rebuilt or repaired.
Yeah,
It
they just
looked
leave
like a
them.
war zone.
Well, I mean, then on top of that, you had all the riots. That also didn't help either, you know.
No, and that was organized too. And
Right.
when you have 50,000 soldiers in black uniforms with black masks that are trained and funded and moved around the country to do this kind of stuff, you get what you get. I mean, you saw it for the last 3 or 4 years. We've seen these cities just burned, targeted, just burn
Yeah.
them up. And this is part of the conflict too. It creates this anxiety that we're seeing now in our country where we have really no justice. We have two systems of justice, and the ones who we know are committing the crimes, money laundering, insider trading, human trafficking, drug fentanyl's coming in by the truckload, enough to kill half the country. We know who's making money on it. And
Mhm.
all we want is justice. All we want is justice, but we're not getting it. In the meantime, those of us that are raising the clarion call, that are trying to show the facts of what's going on and relying on people's intelligence to connect the dots,
Mhm.
we're being cut off. You know, like I told you, my YouTube channel with over 6,000 hours of scientific content gone, just erased.
Mhm.
And the same time, they cut off my social security checks.
I remember you talking about your check issue, but I didn't know they
Unbelievable.
completely.
I'm
Oh
I'm
my
67
god.
years old, by the way. I may not look it, but I'm 67. I've been retired for 2 years. I get a regular Social Security check every month, except the last 2 months. They just stopped.
Brooks,
And I'm not
man.
alone. Oh, I'm not alone. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people just like me, and we're all Trump voters, and we're all patriots, and we're all purebloods.
Of course. Man. Dude, this reminds me of the old Left Behind series with Kirk Cameron,
That
you know.
happened. That movie started after the tribulation, after
Well,
the rapture.
yeah, no, but there was another one. It was before, but all Christians were terrorists, and they were hunted, and they had to
Mhm.
pray in private, and it was just, that was in '94, and
Well, look at Atlas Shrugged. That series was the
uh,
same way. And look at the
yes.
Birth trilogy. We take everything before the rapture and we kind of treat the rapture a different way. It's
Hmm.
a grand cataclysmic separation of two energetic Earths, which is kind of big screen sci-fi kind of stuff. And it's going to make a great TV series,
Yeah,
isn't it, Doc?
just a little. Hey, so uh, Goofon had a good question. He wants to know about how the metals are created from the jab transform into a working receiver? Question mark.
Well, as as I'm trying to say, this voltage, when it's put into the air, it doesn't care. As long as it's conductive, it's the metal is going to attract the electricity,
Hmm.
and it's going to go seeking to ground. And if it can't get to ground, it's going to heat up. And if it heats up, whatever's around it is going to heat up.
Is this kind of the similar metal to that weird metal that's almost alive if you have a magnet or something? It's that liquid
I don't think it's going to
metal.
be magnetic because there's very little iron in these things. It's
Okay.
more manganese and aluminum and chromium, and of course, all these are conductive. They'll all, share electrons right along. They make great wire. Copper, they've got a lot of copper in them. And normally, we're exposed to these metals. We eat them all the time in our foods because they
Hmm.
come out of the dirt. But our bodies get rid of them. Our bodies don't do anything with them unless it's chromium. Of course, it can cause problems with us. So we don't like the heavy metals. But
Is it enough that it would set off like a metal detector?
that's a good
Or
question.
or is it something that you need just an MRI to see, as I think you said, a shadow?
No, we tried MRI, it won't show up. It's almost the same density as the arterial wall itself. So
Um,
it doesn't show up on an MRI. MRI is magnetic resonance imagery. So it doesn't show up that way. But a PET scan is not looking for tissue, it's looking for the isotope. And the isotope has an affinity for sugar. So, of course, they make you fast. So what happens is your healthy cells will start scavenging sugar and hold on to it. And then when the isotope is put into your blood system, it takes about 45 minutes. It goes throughout all your tissues, through all the capillaries in your brain and everything, and it shows up white on the scan. Of course, you can take the body layer by layer by layer by layer and look at it very, very well. But I don't believe that these clots will have an affinity for the sugar. I think they will show up as a dark, sort of like a root system in your body. And then it's like, okay, what are we going to do about it? We can go in and grab them and pull them out, but your body's just going to make them again because you have now been genetically altered to make these circuits.
It's God, it's like a virus in the end, really.
Well,
or is it a fungus? I mean, what would they say since
See,
they don't know what it is?
A virus is like a little eagle lander. Okay, it's like a little eagle lander. So it has RNA that's packed inside this little space capsule. It goes into your system as instructions. It attaches to a cell with the spike protein like a key in a lock. It injects the RNA into the cell, and then the cell, when it gets ready to divide, it makes more of this information. Now, they say it's not genetically altering, and technically that's true. But when we did mRNA experiments on mice have a tendency to undergo what's called a reverse transcription error. So as the protein unfolds, because it's a macromolecule with a ton of information in it, these chromosomes, when they unfold and get ready to divide, they use a lattice structure to hold the protein together. That's what the mRNA is changing, is the makeup of the lattice structure. Now, when the protein refolds back up, the lattice structure, of course, folds up with the protein.
Like a burrito. It's in there now.
Yeah, that's where
Wow.
the writing is occurring. And what happens is you get a reverse transcription error. And in mice, it's about 12 to 15% of the time this occurs. But in humans, it occurs 6 to 10% of the time. So over time, what happens is your cells, using the information that's put into you with these chemicals, the mRNA, it uses that information and it makes the reverse transcription errors, and you are now genetically altered. Your children will inherit the DNA you have. And here's the remarkable thing about this is it was designed with specific lipids. Lipids are they're like little oils, okay, and they're specific to certain enzymatic actions in the body, like in your endocrine system. And so we use them to treat disease because you can put drugs or even activated neutrons into these lipids. They'll go to a certain area of the body, like your liver or your pancreas or your kidneys. And then, of course, that neutron will decay, and more than likely, it will kill cancer tissue before it kills healthy tissue. That's the theory behind chemotherapy. What they're doing is they're using the lipids to sneak this information past our defense system, and it now has an affinity for, guess what, ovaries and testes. And that's where the microclotting is showing up first. So, and I'll give you a good example, and this is how it affects me personally, is my son has a friend. They got married, they had a child in 2018, and then she went back on the pill because they wanted to, earn more money and move up the ladder a little bit. And then in 2021, they tried to have another child. Of course, they got vaccinated in 2020. He's sterile. He is now sterile. They can't have kids. Now, here's the remarkable thing is this is happening to hundreds of thousands of Americans. And we tracked miscarriages. Normally, normal pregnancies, if they go to term, only 2% of them, 2% will miscarry. 2%.
I just had a thought hit me, Brooks. What if this is a way to force us into cloning? Because no one will be able to have children. They'll want to have kids, so they'll have clones. And that will make it more acceptable because we can't have kids, but we got to keep the race going. And maybe over time it messes up and we look a
I
little
don't know.
different. I
Maybe
mean,
we got to have kids so we import illegals that are purebloods who are breedable. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
the answer to that one. I think cloning a human being is totally possible, but here's the question: who gets the body? It's whatever spirit is available, right? I mean, it's going to get the body, so you're not necessarily going to have the same personality. Although they just did a study on doppelgangers. You know what doppelgangers are, right?
yes, identical lookalikes.
Yeah. And what they found is the identical lookalikes had lots of personality markers that were the same. That's crazy that the people not only looked the same, but they had the same habits. They had the same appetites. They had the same things that they liked and things that they disliked. That was really odd to me to see that. I could see it in identical twins because they're genetically, matched, but
Correct.
doppelgangers just look the same.
Do you think maybe God really only has so many, molds? Because if you look through history, you have some of these celebrities that look like people in history. It's like, well, okay, we'll use them for this
Except
generation.
for
We'll
you.
skip 2 generations and we'll bring them back.
Except for you. They only made one of you.
Oh, you're too nice. But okay, so here Dave Dennis from Australia had a question for you. He says, Brooks, do you believe in an alliance of white hat patriots who are about to turn this around after the midterms? Now, we jumped into politics, so here we go.
I don't believe in alliance. I think that they are very disorganized. I think there are small groups that are trying to make a difference, but they're way, way, way
Over
outnumbered.
in over their head, yeah.
You have organizations like the FBI that was founded in corruption in 1935 for the sole purpose of protecting the Democrat Party.
Mhm.
And they're incredible tools, and 35,000 of them trained. You just can't fight them. I don't think the white hats are in control. I don't. Now, there are two schools of thought. One is that Trump is control everything that happened at Mar-a-Lago. He was just handing over information to the FBI. He's always been an asset to the FBI. He's always supported them. I'm in the other school. The other school is that the FBI has been pointed at Donald Trump to destroy him, and they've been trying to do it for 6 years because he is the only world leader right now that's standing in between them and us.
Mhm.
And that's what I think. Now, for the first time this week, in fact, I think it was yesterday, President Donald Trump came out and said, look, the evidence is clear. The election was a mess. You either fix the 2020 election or we want another election. That's what he said yesterday. Now, we'll see how that develops resonant energy behind it. I don't think there are white hats in control. I think they're scrambling, and I think they're running for their lives at this very moment.
Man. So well, I don't want to go too far into that because it go way down the rabbit hole. There was another question. It was Goofon actually said, here we go. So if the metals heat up and we die, what's the end game for this? I'm
The
guessing.
end game is they get our real estate. They get
Yep.
all of our highways, buildings, schools, labs, universities, dams, everything. And they get to move their people from their overcrowded megacities into our country.
Yeah.
And no more liberty and no more freedom. And everything for the global syndicate is back on the original timeline. That's the end game.
Wow. Well, all I can say is Wolverines.
Well, there's a point at which this goes kinetic. I don't want to
Yeah.
see it get there. I think we can stop it before it gets there. We have the authority to do it. In fact, the people are the only ones in the whole world with the authority to stop it.
Wow. And they won't.
We need leadership.
We do. We need. Yeah, and I felt we had that when the man was in the house, and it was I felt the greatest 4 years. There we go. I'm going to say it, but
I felt that way. I mean, we were looking forward to the Roaring Twenties,
oh God, yeah.
and I my Easter Sunday show, I said, look, there's a nonprofit out there called Common Cause. You all don't know about it, but it exists, and it has just recently contracted with its 15th state, which happened to be Colorado. And these 15 states, the secretaries of state in those 15 states have contracted with Common Cause, which was a globalist nonprofit, to withhold their electors until the national popular vote was known. And then they were going to cast their electors with the national popular vote, which is a total violation of the democracy inside each state. One thing your listeners need to know, there is no such thing in our country as a federal election. Those don't exist. That is a complete
Show.
misconception.
Mhm.
All elections are state elections. We have elections in our state, and then our state goes to Washington and votes as a state. There's no federal election. There's no federal election law. It's all state law. And that's where they concentrated. George Soros had a project which he called the Secretary of State Project. And his goal was to endorse and fund soldier secretaries of state that would implement this election process inside the states. And that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on, I don't know if you're familiar with Breitbart Radio. It comes on at 6 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. It's hosted by Alex Marlowe, and it's very popular on Sirius XM. I was on that program, and Alex asked me a question, and I said, here's the deal, Alex. Our election infrastructure was attacked by a foreign power, and it was overcome. Now, that is an act of war, and it demands a military response.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, what do you want us to do, Brooks? You want us to go, bomb the CCP? I said, no, you don't have to do that. There are 50,000 CCP soldiers inside our country as we speak. We know where they are. We know what their names are. We know when they got here. We know where they live. All we have to do is go pick them up and interrogate them, and you'll find the whole plot right there. And about 2,000 of them had already been arrested by the Trump administration. The rest had already been identified, and they were under investigation.
Mm-hmm.
The day that Biden came in, he let them all go. He got him out of jail, and he said, this investigation's over as of this minute.
It's a big Trojan horse, Brooks. Big Trojan horse.
Yeah, but we knew it. I mean, everybody.
And we let them buy up all the land and the national parks, and the UN got some of it too. And
Thanks to Jimmy Giveaway Panama Canal Carter, sure. But I mean, look at our city of Charlotte right here. We had several buildings that were under construction, and the construction companies, the owners, went bankrupt, and buildings didn't get finished. Some of them were 6 stories, some of them were 18 stories, and one was 26 stories, which is I want to say the Bank of America building, might be the Wells Fargo building. But anyway, the Chinese came in and bought them. And Charlotte had a parade. I mean, they were just tickled to death that all this Chinese money came in and, of course, made these building owners and the city very rich for it. But now they own the buildings.
Yeah, actually, a couple months ago, I did an episode talking about this building in Utah. That was a local government building, and a local citizen went in with her camera, and she was stopped by this woman from Africa in a blue if a
She was from
UN
the
outfit.
UN.
Yes, yes, she was in a UN
She said,
outfit.
"This is United Nations property. You can't film here."
That's right. And she's like, "No, this is my town." She goes, "Nope, nope, not anymore. Not as of Sunday." And then you had later, when after Brandon got in, you had this base. I think it was in Virginia, and they gave the whole. It's over right there near Washington D.C., but they gave the whole base to the United Nations, and said it was going to be a headquarters, and that just made me cringe because I've been told throughout my life, even since Sunday school, that beware of the blue helmets, beware of the blue hats,
Yeah.
and
I got a little space on my trophy shelf back here for a blue helmet. I'm going to get one of these days. There's also land in North Dakota. Now, I was stationed at the tropical paradise of Grand Forks, North Dakota when I was in the Air Force. And of course, that base, we handle B-52s, and
Mhm.
we also handle 150 some odd missile silos around North
That's right.
Dakota, Grand Forks, all the way over to Minot.
Why not yet? As I had a roommate. He was the guy that would take care of between of all the missile silos.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend at the time, she was the missileer that turned the key down in the bunker.
Wow. Wow.
And so I'd never pissed her off. She knew how to target missiles. So
Well, the interesting thing is this was in the news, I think, last month, that the CCP had purchased farmland like 15 miles from that Air Force base. And they had set up surveillance equipment at that farm. They were watching the sorties that were being flown by the B-52s because they come on approach.
right.
And they were filming, the jets. They were listening to the radio chatter. They were monitoring things and they were reporting back to the CCP.
Wow.
Does Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals even care about this? No, not even a little bit.
If he's even aware of who he is.
Oh, he's not aware of much. That's why I call him Virtual Joe.
Yeah.
He just reads whatever is given to him.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, no, it's so true because about the UN, they don't publicize it except on the back walls of bathrooms. They'll have an iron, like a bronze plaque saying this park has been dedicated to the United Nations. Da, 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 da. So
Yeah.
we don't even own it, folks. Those national parks, that's not ours anymore. It was Eisenhower that did all that, right? Put in all the highways and the bridges. Am I right, or was it?
Well, yeah, it was
President?
him and Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt
Yeah.
was big about acquiring property to keep private industry from just going in and developing it.
Right.
And we do that. Of course, the federal government, the Department of the Interior, actually acquires land by force using the BLM. And the criteria under which they have done this since the days of Nixon have been three things. First, aquifers, underground water. They control all the aquifers in America. The second is lumber. They control all the forests. So you can't just buy a forest. Nope, the BLM controls all that. And if you've owned a forest for 100 years or so, passed it down through your family, they will come and burn you out. That's what happened at Malheur in Oregon. That was a big standoff about that. The third one is, and a lot of people don't know this, oil. If big oil reserves have been found, the federal government will confiscate the property. And then what they do is they allow companies to come in and drill on it and produce off it. Of course, the federal government makes a royalty off of that. But they can also turn it off anytime they want. And that's what Virtual Joe did when he became president. He shut off all the oil that was underneath the federal lands. And that's why we have a fuel shortage right now.
Yeah, it just sucks because we see it and we know what's going on, and they're still getting away with it.
Well, you have the news say, well, they have 9,000 permits. Why don't they just go drill? Yeah, here's the problem. There's no oil where those permits are. Where the oil is where the federal lands are. Or should I say the federal lands are where the oil is?
Yeah. No, and that's part of the plan. That's how they do it. It's all a big dog and pony show.
Well, people don't realize that the federal government controls 700 million acres of land in the United States. Did you know 73% of the entire state of Utah is owned by the federal government?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's
did hear that.
crazy.
I did hear that Bill Gates is the largest land ranch owner in the United States, with the largest potato farm that can be seen from space, or something crazy like that.
It's true.
So,
That's
yeah.
because farmers get into tax situations and they have to sell. And when the highest bidder comes along, you have no choice. You
Hmm.
cash the check and sign it over.
Yeah.
One more radar lover gone.
True. True. The chat room has been going nuts as we've been talking. I've tried to put
Good for
people up
them.
there, but a lot of it's them talking to each other, which I love, because it really creates a strong community, and they all welcome each other when they all pop in. It's really cool. But there was some what was Elise said something. Timelines can change due to higher collective consciousness rise up. I do think that there is this consciousness thing that's going on. I do believe that there might be some of this manipulation going on as well. But the sun, I didn't ever thought about that, but yeah, something is going on, and everybody. By the way, Martina Brooks says hello. Everybody's just they just love you. They just love you. So
I love them too.
let's do this real quick. I know you got the axe from the tube of you, but where are you still?
That's a good question. Every Wednesday and Sunday at 8 o'clock, I stream on Rumble and Rockfin and Foxhole and Facebook and Twitter and D Live and Twitch. So I'm streaming live on all those services at one
Wow.
time. And all my YouTube archives are stored on Odyssey. So the
Ah,
only thing that they actually cut off were my 20,000 subscribers. They don't
mm,
know where to go. Of course, they hear my show every week, so they know where to go. Go to one of the other free speech platforms. And
sweet. I'm gonna have to.
it's
I'm gonna
rough.
have to get on some of those. I'm probably gonna have to start all over. Mm,
It's tough and it's not cheap. I mean, you have to grow as you can afford it because if you go to all those services and use Restream, which is really the premium service, and use OBS, which is open source broadcasting,
mhm.
which is not easy to use either, you're going to be spending, $1,500 a year. So, and if you don't have a product to sell, it's very
Yeah,
difficult to fund that on your own. So,
yeah.
I do it because I'm rich. So I just buy I
That's
buy all
awesome.
that stuff and I get my word out and they can't stop me. So YouTube is going out of business. They're going to be a how-to
Oh,
network and they won't carry any free thought at all.
mm,
Because the one thing they didn't realize, or maybe they did realize it, but it's a little too late, is when they cut us off and all of us that are free speechers, our audience is left too.
true.
And our audiences are the ones that buy from the ads that they run on YouTube. So YouTube went out of business. That's why Google's stock has dropped so much in the last year. It's
Mm,
because these little 19-year-olds that are making these policy decisions on their behalf are ruining them.
mhm. No, there's a lot of children in charge of stuff. That I can definitely say that. Let's see. Okay, now before we go, one of my viewers, Spaceman from Australia, he's been trying to send me this video and this photo for a while now. And just recently we realized he was sending it to the Dark Force doc instead of the Doc Force. So who knows who the people are on the other end of that email. But I said I would show this. And since you're here, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. This is from February 9th, 2008. Okay.
Okay.
So I didn't hit screen share. Let me do that real quick. This one. Yes. There we go. All right. I'm going to play this and get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Here we go. Now, first thing, being in the business that I do, I want to say CG maybe. It looks good, and
Looks good.
I'm really trying to look for any distortion like that. That was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. But that was from 2008. I don't know. Maybe I'm just jaded because there's been so
Well,
much
we've seen some
CG
pretty
out.
good stuff. I like the one from Hawaii where 6 of them come flying over, and that looks so real.
Oh
But,
yeah,
CGI is very good.
right.
I don't here's the thing about UFOs. We all know that they exist because I've seen them with my naked eye and I've filmed them with digital cameras at the same time. 2 different digital cameras at the same time caught the same ship. So I know they exist. So I have to ask myself some questions. If they exist, where do they come from? Well,
Hmm.
being a physicist, I have to agree with myself saying they don't come from another star system. It's just not possible to travel across the open expanse of space.
Yeah. So
Are
you
they
think
are they
wormholes?
interdimensional? Maybe, but that's
Hmm.
technology that's I don't know anything about yet. I'm thinking about it, but I don't know anything about it. Which means they're probably ancient civilizations that have been here for a long, long time. And maybe their main civilization was wiped out and they're the remnants. And they live somewhere on this planet, maybe under the ocean, maybe
Oh,
inside the planet.
oh! Thank you for saying that because this was the other picture that I said came with his email. Check it out, Fishman. And he's saying in the story that he's saying here is that this was taken by some black ops guys that were on another planet, and this is one of the creatures from that planet that they got. Now, this could, like I said, it could always be, make believe, but it's an interesting shape. Just the arms alone, make you go, hmm.
Mm.
So, what do you think? Real or?
I don't know. I don't know. I think the pictures are pretty good factual evidence. A fact is a direct observation,
Yeah,
but they are
yes.
what we call in science uncorroborated facts.
Okay.
That is to say, you don't have 2 of them, and you don't have witnesses, and you don't have independent verification. So it's uncorroborated fact. The second thing that I think about UFOs is they're as present as they want to be. And if they wanted to be more present, I honestly don't think there's anything we could do about it.
Hmm.
The third thing that I realize is I'm really happy that they have not brandished their weapons yet.
True.
So those are the 3 things I know about UFOs.
Wow. Well, there's. Do you think that there's going to be this dreaded Project Bluebeam event where they'll have hologram ships that look like the Phoenix Lights, really huge, but inside you have one of the TR-3Bs dropping bombs, so it looks like it's the big ship. I mean, there's so many things that have been said. What are your thoughts on that?
They're
Do you
like
think that's going to?
War of the Worlds Part 2.
Yeah, but that's going to be the other shoe that everybody's been dreading. That's going to drop any moment. Do you think they're going to go through with it? That's going to be their final.
You think that'll be the October surprise? I doubt it.
Hmm,
I think, first of all, the majority of the people are kind of ready for this introduction. They're not going to panic. They're not going to commit suicide, and they're not going to run into the churches and say, "Oh, God in heaven, how could you allow this to happen?" I think they're ready for it.
mhm,
The amount of showmanship that it would take, the production ability it would take to fool a nation into thinking that. Because if we see it on TV, we're not going to believe it. If we see it on CNN, we're just going to crack a beer and laugh about it.
right.
If we see it with our own naked eyes above our own town, it gets a little more realistic then.
So you think
But
it'd have to be like Independence Day, where they had ships strategically all over the major cities, something
yeah,
like that?
yeah. And also, you remember on Independence Day when they had the public service announcement, please do not shoot at the saucers.
Right.
I think that's what Americans would be doing. They would
Hmm.
they would be firing kinetic weapons at this thing from every angle.
Yeah. Someone had mentioned last night on my show that when you really think about it, when there is this interaction between, military pilots and Tic Tacs, and you really think about it, it's just Americans chasing Americans.
Yeah. Well, the Tic Tac is kind of a misconception
Mm,
because the film that was released was infrared. And infrared does not give you an image of the ship. It only gives you an image of the heat. So the heat signature was round like a Tic Tac, but that doesn't mean that the ship looked like that at all. The ship could have
mm.
looked like an airplane. It could have looked like a saucer. It could have looked like a Borg ship for all we know. The heat signature is what looked like the Tic Tac.
So toroidal energy that creates the wave effect when you're in the bubble, it gets hot. I mean, I see, because I thought it kind of separated itself from all elements because it could slice through water so easily in air and in space. And
Yeah.
it always makes me think of the old TV show or movie in the 80s called The Explorers with River Phoenix.
Oh
And,
yeah.
and they built that little space capsule in the backyard. And that always makes me think of that. But yeah, anyway, continue. I'm sorry, I'm battling.
We have seen them fly into Mount Adams before at night. We can watch the lights come in and they just fly right into the mountain. And there's nothing on the mountain. I mean, it's no roads or anything on the mountain. And we do see it, and we have filmed it lots and lots of times. So there is something to be said that maybe they are able to somehow phase themselves. The ones that we filmed, by the way, were in broad daylight up on Mount Adams. And we had 2 different digital cameras, different brands, different megapixel settings, and they were on tripods. And I conducted an experiment where we took 10 shots 3 seconds apart. So it was like 1, 2, 3, fire, 1, 2, 3, fire. And then we collected the pictures off both cameras. We were about 50 feet apart, shooting up at the mountain, broad daylight, blue skies, and we both picked up the same ship. Now, the odd thing about this ship is it was fuzzy. The mountain was crystal clear, totally crystal clear, but the ship itself looked like a cigar, but it was fuzzy. It was got out of focus. And I thought, man, that far away, that field of view, that thing should have been crisp clean.
Mhm.
And here's the odd thing. Neither one of us could see it with our naked eye, but our cameras were picking it up. And my theory is that the way the chips work in the phones and the cameras, we weren't using phones, we were using cameras, that the way the chips work in the cameras is what's called oversampling. What it does is when we snap the picture, yeah, it shoots in 125th of a second, but it takes 30 or 40 shots and it overlays them. That's how they get the clarity.
Oh,
And
okay.
our eyes don't do that. Our eyes, the rods and cones in our eyes, work at about 40 cycles. If you get above 40 cycles, we can't see it. It's invisible to us. If you get below that, it starts to flash. And when you get way below that, we see it as a solid.
Wow.
So,
Well,
like, we're looking at our CRTs right now. They're actually flashing at 70 cycles per second.
correct.
But it looks like a continuous image to us because our eyes cannot pick up the flash.
It's catching it like we're not catching the in between,
Right.
the changes of the frames, you might say, on a film
Right.
reel.
And it may be our brain that, blends
That
it all together.
that,
But
that does the click in between the frames.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and we've known this about film for a long, long time. We know that the shutter speed needs to be about 25 frames or better
hmm
because we're both in the film editing business, and we know when we get to 29 frames per second, we've got a pretty clean image.
Yeah.
It'll transfer pretty well without the file size being enormous. So we know what the human eye can do, but these ships may have a way of routing light around them in a frequency our eyes can't see,
Creating a cloak.
but the digital cameras can see it.
Yeah. I mean, it
Plus,
makes
the
sense why
digital
so many
cameras
people don't
are
say.
sensitive to more frequencies than our
No.
eyes too.
And do you think that some people maybe that meditate or something, they're able to get their frequency to a certain level that allows them to see, kind of like psychics who that can see ghosts or talk to spirits. You'll hear them say, I got to tune in, I gotta get into the frequencies. So
Been out on night watches with guys like Dr. Stephen Greer and others, and I'm not buying it. When somebody in the group says, I did in fact see a ship, I didn't see it.
mhm.
I didn't see it. I'm not a bad person. I was in tune. I didn't see it. So, it doesn't mean it didn't exist. Like I said, a direct observation is a fact, is a scientific fact, but I deal in corroborated facts.
True. No, and I'm kind of the same way. That's why I've never done one of them, because I feel like I just am not going to get on that frequency, and I'm going to be that one guy that's not going to see what everybody else sees.
Yeah. But we've seen
Yeah.
some pretty strange stuff, though.
Oh yes.
We can tell some pretty good stories about it.
Yeah. You bet you stay on this planet long enough, you're definitely going to see some weird shit.
What I'm, most fascinated with are the ancients that saw the same thing that we're seeing, and they put it in stone. They recorded it, what they saw.
Right. Right. Yeah. And just knowing that it would be there forever. It's one of the best ways to save history, because everything else gets burned down
You can
or
go
destroyed.
to the Smithsonian. You're not going to see the UFO exhibit. Okay, it isn't there.
Right.
But you can go to the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, and you will see a lot of cool stuff.
So, what is your thoughts on why certain countries are full out or forthright with people? Is that the right word? To let them know, hey, this is real. Like South America, you got Jaime Massad, who's like the Walter Cronkite of UFO reporting and is known throughout the whole South America.
Yeah.
You have other countries that have released files saying yes. Why?
Chile.
We used to always be the first, and now we're just slacking and just no, we're just gonna wait and see how it goes. Everybody
Well,
else
here's my
first.
theory about
It's
it.
irritating.
Having, as an Air Force veteran and an affiliated scientist, my theory is that the United States of America military community, and if you go to the Pentagon, you'll see it. It's thick, like they own the air over our country, and they don't like the idea of someone not authorized flying in our airspace, especially unidentified flying in our airspace. But they don't like even more admitting that there's someone uninvited flying through our airspace. So that's why they cover it up.
Okay. The Spaceman says, I wonder if lenses made of crystal would show them. It allows UV light to be captured. Now, I know crystals are used for many things. I've heard that they've been used in time travel and all kinds of other stuff, but they also hold and save energy or memory, like information.
Mhm.
What if we had, let's say, a pair of binoculars with crystal lenses? Do you think we would be able to see something different?
Well, it depends on what the crystal's made of. Now, we do have glass that's very fine, it's very well done, but the coatings on the glass, now those we can engineer very well. And we have very good night vision technology right now. I don't know if you have generation 4 up where you are. You can get generation 4, but it's hard to get and it's expensive. You're probably looking at least $1,800 for a single lens. If you want a binocular, you're going to be spending close to $3,000 for a generation 4 night vision.
Right. I got a
Now,
psionics, but that's it right now.
well, I had a generation 1 scope for a long time. It was black and white and it was a single scope, and I put it on my camera and it looked okay. And the generation 2 was kind of green. But the generation 4 is like you're walking in the mall. It's
Well,
incredibly
yeah.
clear.
Well, this psionics that I have, it's in color.
Oh, wow.
And so you see somebody in full color in the dark, across the yard or whatnot. And when you hold it up to the stars, oh my gosh, it's like Christmas lights. Everything's
Yes.
different colors. And I showed it to somebody the other night, and you could look up, you saw the Big Dipper and maybe one or two stars around it, right? You hold this up, boom, 150 million stars pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it is so, and even the little clusters that you can't see with your naked eye, you're seeing it. And
Yeah.
I love this. I love the technology. It was actually one of my very first sponsors. I was trying to sell them for a while, a few years back.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I if it makes me think of the movie They Live. If we just get glasses that would let us see what's really there, I think the world would be a more interesting place. But let's see. Was there any questions? Nope, 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 nope. I think we're good there. So that was the questions about the lenses, because I do know, like a telescope, it's not the length of the telescope, it's the width of the lens and the amount of light it brings to a focal point. Um, and so that I used to always think that's why aliens' eyes are always really big and they can see right through us, because it's just a big pupil. Um,
Well, I always thought it was because Earth is a very rare planet in that we have developed in such a way that we can live on the outside of our planet. We have an atmosphere and a magnetosphere, and it protects us against the radiation that comes from the sun, and our skin has adapted to it, changes out pretty quick as it's destroyed in just a few seconds of sunlight. But maybe alien races or alien worlds that can't live on the outside of their planet. Maybe they have to live on the inside of their planet. And that's why they have big eyes, so they can see in the reduced light.
No, it makes perfect sense to see underground. Even in H.G. Wells, The Time Machine, when he goes into the future, society are these sloth beings, and they have to live underground. If they were to go outside, it would just be devastating for them visually. So it makes perfect sense. But it makes the thought linger in my head. Is it going to be the kill shot, as Major Ed Dames would say, where the sun, just heating it up and frying the planet? Or is it going to be war between nations? Or is it going to be a plague? Um, I mean, there's just so many options. What do you think that it would be that would drive us underground?
I don't think any of that. I honestly think we are on the threshold of a golden age. I think the dark side is trying to hold on to a lost vestige of world control.
Mhm.
I think that freedom and liberty is born into the human spirit. And I think the earth, properly managed, could support 20 billion people pretty easily, in fact,
Mhm.
without hurting the ecology and living within the sustainability of life on this earth. We do have, I'd say, about half the world, about 3 billion people, 3.5 billion people, who just simply don't handle their trash. They
Mhm.
they piss in the river, they throw their trash in the streets, and when the floods come, all that goes out to the ocean and ruins the planet. If those people could just learn to pick their garbage up and process it correctly, recycle it,
Mhm.
and learn about waste control, the whole planet would clean up. If the
Yeah.
whole planet was run like Europe and the US and now Russia, uh, Russia used to have this like smell to it. Just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's clean, totally clean. And their stores are full of the best produce on the planet. And the people are doing fine. They're doing great. They're doing
Mhm.
wonderful. Streets are clean. The air is clean. It is a totally clean continent. But
Hmm.
you go to China, you go to I've been to Nepal, I've been to Tibet, I've been to Thailand. It's crap
Mhm.
everywhere, and it
Yeah.
just stinks like death in the summertime.
Right. No, I've been in areas like that, and it is because I was involved with Katrina. I was part of the stormtrooper team that go in and estimate all the damage and write the people their checks so they could get on with their lives. And just the smell was awful. The two questions: Hollow Earth. Do you think that maybe we'll get there, and that will be part of living in the Earth, but it'll be a beautiful place as you've described in the past?
Yeah, I don't know about it being a beautiful place, but I do know that if there's space there, there will be life there. I can say that our team, we haven't done much in the last couple of years because it is a rather unpopular time to try to raise money to rent a nuclear powered icebreaker owned by
By
Russia.
Russia, yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to have to wait
Hmm.
to a better climb to be able to get to Murmansk. We were going to go. We had tickets and we'd spent the money, and we were going to go in 2020, actually the summer of 2020.
Hmm.
And I made my first appearance on January 7th, 2020 in New Jersey. And that was the first of about 20 appearances for the year. And we were going to fly to Moscow and then go to St. Petersburg,
Petersburg. Yep.
then to Murmansk. And then from there, we were going to go to Zurich
Yeah,
or
because we were gonna check out the
Bern.
Hadron Collider.
Yeah.
We
And
were
then
gonna
we were
do
going to
that
go to
too.
Pisa, Italy
Hmm.
to check out the last of the final laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory.
Hmm.
But we made the first appearance and everything got shut down. We lost, I don't know, I maybe close to $20,000. We just never got back. We
Hmm.
lost books, we lost plane tickets, train tickets. It was just a disaster. So, not many people can just write off 20 grand, but you know, it hurts to do
It
that.
does. It does. It
You don't want to
does.
turn around and do it again.
Yeah.
So, we didn't go. We didn't do the dry run, and that trip was supposed to be the dry run. We were going to go to Murmansk. We were going to go on the ship, not take the ship, but we are going to go on the ship and film the ship and do some promo work,
Yeah.
and try to meet some investors in Moscow because we had lined up some investors who were very interested in the films, by the way.
Hmm.
And it just, the global syndicate called up 187 countries and you said you will shut the hell down or else.
Yeah.
And I don't know who has the authority to make that call, but somebody made it and it worked.
Yeah, that did. Martina has a question. She goes, a question. She goes, do you feel that they are not sharing the info about aliens because many people could not mentally handle it because it won't fit into their religious views, or they just could not make that fit into their world? Maybe totally panic people?
I think there was a time when people would be panicked, but I don't think that's now. We have way too much information that's not controlled that people have gotten their hands on, and they've become awakened to it. And I don't think that they would be, like I said, stop, dropping, and rolling because some alien is now speaking on TV through a translator. I just don't think so. I think we would be welcoming and we would realize that, hey, we're not alone in the universe. We are the part of either their interest or perhaps there is something called the Galactic Federation. I don't think so. I don't think it exists. It's a nice sounding thing. It looks great on TV. But the big question is, why doesn't the government let the cat out of the bag?
Right.
And I think it goes down to their ownership of the sovereignty of airspace. I also think it may be that obviously they're more advanced than we are. And what is DARPA and CIA interested in? Advanced weapon systems.
Hmm.
Um, that being said, I'm not seeing it. I didn't see it in Afghanistan. I didn't see it in Iraq. I didn't see it in Syria. I haven't seen it in Ukraine, even though a ton of money has been laundered through that area. I didn't see it in Turkey. I haven't seen it in Russia. I don't know of any of this advanced weapons technology. I don't know of any ships that can make a left-hand turn at 10,000 miles an hour. Because if we had it, we would have shown it. We would have used it.
Well, actually, and I brought this up like in two other episodes because I feel it is so vitally important. Let me pull up the article real quick. Okay. So this was recently, 8 days ago. Yes, now listen to this title. You probably read it. This was on Newsmax, and I'll bring it up on the screen. Congressional report: some UFOs don't have man-made origins. An addendum to the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2023, a budget that governs American clandestine services, produced a revelation that might pique the interest of the American public. Congress doesn't believe all UFOs are man-made. Right there, they admitted two things. One, that there are real UFOs out there, and two, we have our own UFOs because we're aware of it. The government's aware of it because it's theirs. So right there, just two admissions. What do you think of that?
Well, first of all, I don't give a rat's ass what Congress thinks. I think they're all a bunch of people just trying to make themselves rich off the taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Congress many times, sat there and spoken in the hallways and spoken in the ramps going to the congressional auditorium. I have spoken face to face with lots of them. They're dumbasses. They're airheads. They don't care about any of this. It's just a game to them.
Yes,
So
it is.
Congress is completely inconsequential. The president, that's a different story. The president isn't bought like that. I have also been in the Pentagon, and I've spoken to generals and colonels face to face. And I'll tell you what they're more concerned about. They're more concerned about cybersecurity. Oh, they really get a sweat on about that. They're really afraid of the technology. They have a fear about it. That's why they have these small groups. That's why the Q group became so important to us, because it was the one time that somebody inside with that kind of clearance leaked questions and observations to us, the people. Well, actually not to us, but to the Anons. Anons have been around forever. Anons have been around since the 20s. But and you have to understand what an Anon is. Anon stands for anonymous. They work around us all the time. They work in tech industries. They work in manufacturing. They work in metallurgy. They work in banking. They're everywhere, but they don't show up. They have talents, but they don't show up as activists. And they can't be bought. And they're largely anarchists, which means they don't believe in any kind of leadership at all. They don't belong to a club. There's no hierarchy. There's no managers, no leaders, nothing. They're Anons. So when Q came out and posted the first time, which was 10/28, the Anons didn't like it. The Anons jumped on it with all fours from everywhere because they wanted to out this imposter. But what happened was they proved the null hypothesis. If he's not an imposter, then he must be the real thing. Now you have to understand why it happened, because it wasn't just a novelty. It wasn't for entertainment. It was because the Trump administration was coming in and they realized that they were being spied on by the intelligence communities, the most powerful intelligence communities in the world, and satellites and wiretapping, and you would not believe the technology that they have, that they can watch you, they can listen to you, they can monitor you, they can track you. And the Q, which was this group, I would say, of about 3 people inside the Trump administration, they realized they were totally outclassed and totally outnumbered, and they needed help. They didn't have a budget, and they couldn't go advertise for it. So Q put the challenge out. And what happened is the Anons responded. And within 90 days, I'd say, it took a while to get through 8chan and then get kicked off there and go to 4chan. About 90 days, there were about 20,000 Anons that were helping Q. Now there are 20 million Anons from all over the world. And they're very good. They're so good. So many times they've been challenged, and literally within minutes, no more than hours, They have the place, they have the time, they have the location, they have the angle, they have everything. And they are able to discover, when Q puts them onto something, they have the answer within an hour.
And
It's the most powerful cyber army the world has ever known. And the generals are scared to death of it.
yeah, what I enjoyed seeing was when all of the protests were getting hot and heavy worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
Other countries were holding up the American flag. They were doing
Singing the anthem.
the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah.
American, I mean, other foreigners, they don't normally,
In Poland and France
and they're doing it in
Venezuela.
English. How many people? I'm telling you, we got a lot of people that do speak other languages in this country, but in just we're lazy. We're like, well, why don't you speak in American?
Hong Kong, they were doing it in Hong Kong too.
And they're doing it. They're speaking, and they were fighting for us. They were fighting for us.
It was because of Q. It was because of the Anons.
And it was, it's just it
When Q
made
started
me feel
posting
good.
again, when Q started posting again this year, he awakened and gave hope to the anonymous community. And the left, or I should say the globalists, are so afraid that they took the two words and they put them together and created this cult called QAnon. Well, I'm here to tell you, there's no such thing. QAnon doesn't exist. That's a fabrication that was made up by the news media. There's Q, and then there's the Anons.
Yeah,
but there ain't no such thing as QAnon.
QAnon, yeah. Makes sense. I believe it. Yeah, they just, because that's what the media does, and they'll continue to do it. But man,
and they made us the enemy. And you know what? We are. And we are very, very dangerous. And being dangerous, we're able to ensure our sovereignty.
Mm-hmm. Well, after the FBI and all that stuff, the raid, man, we really, I just want to, I want the country I was raised in. I want it back. So how about we do this? How about we do this? Let's do this then. Let's do this, Brooks. How about
probably
you
never
and
had it? You were just unaware of it. And see, that was the beauty of Donald Trump. When President Donald Trump gave his inaugural address, it was a declaration of war with these words. He said, "This is not the peaceful transition of power from one political party to another. This is the transfer of power from Washington, D.C. back to the people." That was the declaration of war. And that's why they are at war with him. And that's why we are on his side.
Right. Wow. It's going to be interesting to see what the future holds for us.
Like I said, I'm looking forward to 1,000 years of bounty. We are entering the golden age. They will lose and we will win.
Yeah. Brooks, always a pleasure. So much fun. We're going to have you on again. The crowd just, the chat room, they're just loving you. And I'm trying to put things up, but like I said, sometimes they're having conversations, so I don't want to put all the comments up.
That's okay.
It's them talking to each other. But a lot of people here really enjoying it. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And tomorrow night, by the way, if you're listening tonight, Doc Skinner is going to substitute for me because I'm going to be at a Korn concert in Evanescence.
Wait, hold on. What? You're going to make me work while you go to an Evanescence and Korn concert?
Yeah. But it's the first time since I've been on Revolution Radio Network, first time I've ever had a substitute. So this is a very exclusive community.
Oh, my gosh.
And so they are already set up. They've already sent your Skype an invite.
Okay.
So all you have to do is at what would normally be 7:58 my time.
Mm-hmm.
You just simply call into the Skype and you'll hear the intro music. You put it on your StreamYard, and guess what? You have 1,000 new listeners to your program.
Okay, well, we might have to go over that about piggybacking on from whatever to StreamYard. So we might have to go over that tomorrow. Well,
it's just an audio feed. You don't get any video. It's just an audio. And all you're doing is taking your audio and sending it to the Skype. You don't get
Okay.
any calls. You don't have to interact with them. Nothing. All
And-
you're doing is communicating to going out through TalkStream Live to about, it's the largest listener supported network in America. It is huge. It's bigger than Blaze TV.
Okay. I'm not nervous at all.
Well,
Jesus
you're
Christ.
stepping into easy shoes because
Oh,
America
wow.
Free Radio listeners on Revolution Radio are very loyal. They've
And-
been for years, and they will support you 100%. They'll listen to every word you say.
Okay. Am I okay, teacher? As I'm substituting, do you have a syllabus for tomorrow?
Yes, I'll send you
Okay.
something tomorrow. I'll send
Okay.
you, talking points. But I can script the whole show for you if you want. But I
Yes.
think you'll do better with your spirit than you would reading my script.
Right. Maybe some bullet points.
I can do that. No problem.
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored and scared shitless. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to
That's
do
okay.
this.
Your fear will come over the airwaves, and they'll respect that.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Ooh, my head is spinning a little bit. This is okay.
It's only
Thank you
2
so
hours,
much.
and they take a break at the top of the hour. You hear the music come on, so you'll get another 3 or 4 minutes breathing time, and then
Oh,
believe me,
yeah.
2 hours goes so fast. I do a 3-hour program twice a week, so I patterned my program after Rush Limbaugh because I figured if he could do it with 47 minutes of commercials, I
Mhm.
could do it.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for 18 years, so we're pretty good.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we'll talk again tomorrow, right? Before this happens.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
send you stuff. I'll send you stuff all day, but come about noon or 30 your time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be incommunicado, baby.
Okay, and I'm gonna put. I need a sticky thing. No bad words.
Yeah, you can use
No.
some. You can use
No. I'm. It's gonna be your show. I'm gonna
no
do my.
mushrooms. No,
Oh,
can't do that.
okay. Just acid. Okay. All right. Just kidding. I kid. Man, dude, I'm a little jealous. Corn and Evanescence. My
Yeah.
goodness gracious.
I
Her-
like Evanescence. Amy Lee is very talented. I saw her 10 years ago, and in that 10 years, she has not had a song out of the top 100. That's saying something for a woman.
I was actually in the process of booking them when they first came out. They were still not full blown yet, and I was working for a Christian radio station in Newport, Oregon, called Winds of Praise Radio, and I was kind of like the black sheep of the church because they're doing all this good stuff, wholesome stuff, prayer stuff, gospel music. That's all great. Here I come in with Christian rock with Corn,
Creed.
Creed, POD, Switchfoot.
That's cool.
And all these. I was going to book them, and it was going to be called the Seed Festival, the Seed Music Festival, like planting seeds, and it was going great. I had who was the guy that shot the lady on the movie set? Baldwin, the Baldwin brother. That's all Christian, and he does ministry. He does skateboard ministry. They were kind of come up and do a demonstration of skating and stuff. And so I was really excited about it because I was doing something for Christ. I was on fire, I was on fire. I still am, but I mean, I was like really on fire and had it all set up. It was all going to go down. And then the elders, they listened to some of the music and like, no, this is the devil's way of hiding himself in music.
Listen to those drums. Yeah.
Yes, that's not angelic. There's the violins and the guitar. So they didn't happen. But I was in works and talks with all those people. And Amy, her manager, was one that I was working with. And she just has such an amazing voice. So yes, I am extremely jealous you're going, but I hope you have a great time. I will do my best to captain the ship for the night. And I don't know what we'll talk about. I'm sure you'll tell me. So
basically the same thing you're doing here.
Oh, okay.
America Free Radio. We We cover the mysteries of the universe and the earth, and a lot of that has to do with economic science and political science. We don't do politics, but we do government.
Mhm.
We talk about Ukraine. We talk about, of course, the jab. We talk about social things that are going on, but I don't do politics. It's just
Okay.
I don't campaign for anybody. I
I'm the
just
same way.
I try to bring history in as often as I can. Here's what happened in 1941. That's very similar to what we're going through right now. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll fix you up. You'll be in good shape.
It's just you're so smart. I don't feel that smart.
Hey, there are
Um, so
57 hosts on the Revolution Radio Network, and
yeah,
not to brag, but we're probably number 2 on that. And
nice.
and
No
Revolution
more.
Radio, I think, is the number 8 network in the world.
Oh, no pressure. This is gonna be great. Oh yeah, yeah. Shit, I wing it every day anyway, so I'll just do it like that.
It
As
will
long as I
be
got as long as I got some topics to go off of, we'll be good. And you said I'm not taking calls?
no calls.
Okay. Just have to wait for the music and then fade out. I got
Yep.
it.
There's
All
not
right.
even a chat room. I mean, they haven't integrated their chat yet. It's just too
Mm,
big. So
wow.
I take the chat, of course, from Twitch and Twitter and Facebook, and I used to do YouTube. Don't do it anymore. Rumble doesn't integrate their chat, so I don't see those chats either.
Mm,
Of course, I'm on Foxhole, and you have to watch that separate. That's on a network called Pilled, which it's an exclusive club, so it's difficult to get in there. But you can
yeah.
stream your video to your people, and you can have the Revolution Radio audio people listening on drive time on the West Coast.
Okay. Phoenix Starborn, I guess, came in a little late and said, "What's Brooks' channel?" So it's
Oh,
not on YouTube because you got the axe. But
yeah.
can you go
Well,
over your channels one more time?
if you just want to listen to me, and I don't care what social media you use, just go to americafreeradio.com, and they're all listed right there. Just click on an icon, and boom, there's the network.
Fantastic. Well,
Whatever you
Brooks,
like, D Live or Rumble, or Rumble's the most popular right now. Get a lot of people on Rumble. It's a good quality stream. They still need to up their game a little bit, and we're talking with the leadership about doing some things like integrating chat and um, giving us a permanent stream key. Right now, you have to come up with a new stream key for every single show, and that's just a pain in the butt for hosts.
mhm,
If you don't know the tech side of this business, like Doc and
yeah.
I, you're lost. You're just going to be basically a YouTuber or a TikToker, but you're not going to be a radio host. Because what we do is radio. We don't do podcasting. Podcasting is an Apple term that comes from the old iPod. We don't do podcasting. We're actually doing radio. And the inventor of this, by the way, was Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh was the number one radio program in America for a long, long time, 3 hours. But it was only audio, and it was only on AM.
Mm,
So he had 20 million listeners. That's a
wow.
lot of listeners. And then one day, he added what he called the Ditto Cam. And he had a huge technology hurdle to jump because no one had ever done it before. So he created the Ditto Cam, and he started to bring it in a few minutes a day, and then maybe it was an hour a day, and he would turn the Ditto Cam on for subscribers. So he started video radio,
Wow.
and and here we are today. I mean, there's thousands of us out here now because of
Mhm,
Rush Limbaugh.
wow. No, I enjoyed listening to him when I was in high school. I was still a Democrat because I was in entertainment, because that's what you do. And but my friend, and it's gonna be fun. His name is actually James Bond. It's not a joke, but he was a hardcore Rush Limbaugh fan, and so I was always listening to it when we would be hanging out. And even though I was on the other side, he always made sense.
Well, I
No.
don't think that Rush was a Republican per se.
Mhm.
I think he was an American. He was a patriot, and
Yes.
I feel like the founding fathers did that. There are really only two parties. There's patriots and there's traitors. So you're either for the country or you're for yourself.
Right.
And what we have right now is an elected government full of people who are there for themselves. And they're all compromised. I think most of them are. I'd say at least 70% of them are compromised, but they have all made themselves rich while
Mhm.
they've been in public office. And that is just wrong.
Especially drunken Pelosi.
Well, as you know, I'm a representative of the Convention of States. I'm a state captain, and I helped start the movement in 2012 with my #1 bestseller, Alienated Nation. The Convention of States takes advantage of Article 5 in the Constitution, which allows the states to call a convention. It takes 34 states to pass the resolution. Then we have the convention. In that convention, we amend the Constitution. And right now we have 4 amendments we're working on, 4 amendment areas we're working in. The first has 67% agreement among our over 2.5 million members and all the delegates. 67% is term limits for Congress.
Mhm.
And I say 67%, it should be, why isn't it 100%? Because there's also debate in there. And one of the debates in there is that we stop senators from running for election. We put it back the way it originally was, that the state legislators elect the Senate and then
Mhm.
send it to Washington. There is no election. There is no campaign. There aren't $40 million poured into a freaking senatorial campaign. All the
Mhm.
corruption goes away. And the state is actually purely represented in Washington. You don't have senators going to Washington, buying a home in Washington, and only going back to their state to raise money or to campaign, because that's what you have now.
Mhm.
Do you even know where a lot of those senators are from? I mean, they say, oh, the senator from Iowa, Grassley, whatever, or the senator from Georgia or the senator from North Carolina. They were never here. They were
Yeah.
in Washington. They were making themselves multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
Now, Congress, of course, runs every 2 years. We want to change that to every 4 years and alternate it. So it's not all Congress running every 4 years. They still keep the 2-year schedule, but split the Congress so that they're not campaigning all the time. Because the
Mhm.
instant they get elected, they got to go right back to raising money because they're going to run again in 21 months. It's insane.
Yeah.
So we change it to 4 years and get the money out of the politics. And the second area is what we call the Commerce Clause. Commerce Clause in the Constitution is very vague. It's kind of gooey. And what's happened is it's allowed agencies, bureaus, departments, administrations to pop up and have federal power. Well, that's not constitutional. So
No.
we want to fix that and undo all their federal power. No more FBI, no more CIA, no more EPA, no more FDA. All that goes away.
Mhm.
It all gets run by a council of states, which is the way it should be. And the third one is to do away with the 16th Amendment, which is the amendment that allows the federal government to tax our income.
Right.
And we want to do away with that because it's based on a assumption. It's called the zero basis assumption, which is that everything Doc Skinner does is worth nothing. And therefore, every bit of money he makes doing it is 100% profit. And so that's how they base their taxes.
Oh.
What we want to say is the federal government has no right to know what we earn. We do
Exactly.
not have to waive our Fifth Amendment right every time we sign a 1040. All that goes away. No more income tax. What goes in place is a sales tax. So you can earn all the money you want and you don't have to report it to anybody. But
Mhm.
when you spend the money, that's when you pay the tax.
Yeah,
So
I can understand sales tax on purchasing something. I get that. But yeah,
rich people spend more money.
our earnings, the death tax. I mean, some of these taxes are just beyond ridiculous.
And they will have a windfall because look at all the taxpayers they'll be adding. 50, 60 million Americans that don't have bank accounts, have no registered income at all. They cut hair, they do nails, they mow grass.
Bartenders, waitresses,
They
yeah.
don't have bank accounts. You don't have any idea how much they make. They pay no tax. My daughter is 30. My oldest daughter is 38 years old. Never paid a dime of federal tax in her whole life, ever.
Wow.
So when she makes the purchase, she'll pay the tax. And the other thing that happens is that 78,000 IRS agents, they go away. And all the accountants and all the lawyers and all the prisons and all the guns and everything, all that goes away.
Yeah.
Everything's based on sales instead of income, which is ridiculous. It's just a control mechanism. And the fourth one is just as important. In fact, I think more important than the other three. And it's become important because of the way we write our laws. The fourth one is a very simple thing called line item veto. It goes to the president, right? The president lost his veto power decades ago, way back before Reagan. We don't write one bill for one law anymore. We write one bill with 6,000 laws in it.
Right.
And if he wants to have his military, he has to sign the bill. If he wants his social welfare program, he has to sign the bill. Not anymore. With line item veto, he can say, nope, 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 nope. And Congress, the global syndicate, loses its power to suck these laws into our legal system.
Wow.
So those are the four amendments. And right now, I think we have 21 states. We need 34. So if you live in a state that has not signed that resolution, and you can find out if they have or not by going to cosaction.com, cosaction.com. If they haven't signed the resolution, call your state representative and tell them, sign the resolution. We want the Convention of States.
Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome, and I didn't realize your position and all that. That's pretty awesome. Representing your state like that, and for such a great cause.
Well, actually, it's just my area of the county. There are lots and lots of captains in this state.
Oh, okay. Well, that's just awesome that you're a part of that. Let's see. So yeah, and everybody's just really in on this. They're loving this. There's so many comments. I just can't play them all, but wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to start preparing because I
have to get ready to go to work in the morning. So
yeah, me too. I've got that and doctor's appointments, and then this as well, and then my show after that. So I'm gonna have a fun full day tomorrow. But we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay.
And before all this happens, hopefully, make sure that I got the right thing.
Call you 5 minutes before showtime. No, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to go buy.
Don't forget to look in your Skype for something from Revolution Radio.
Okay, and I'm gonna have to get a nice shirt.
Well, no, only your video. Revolution Radio is just audio.
That's right.
All they're doing is piggybacking on your stream right now. Like if they were listening right now on Skype, all those people all over the world would be listening to us right now.
Yeah. And Agnew for Prez.
With a name like Agnew, I don't think so. I'm much more powerful as John Q. Public.
I like that. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. It's always just mind-blowing pleasure. So thank you so much for hanging out tonight.
We should do it more often, then you'll build a skin for it.
Right. Yeah, I got to get back to it. I've just been doing this Halloween festival thing, and once that's over,
that's very cool. Those costumes are amazing.
Oh, you see the ones that I got now that we've been ordering. We get all the movie quality stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we're pretty excited about it. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Get some rest for tomorrow's and enjoy yourself at the concert.
I will.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll chat tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
All right. All right, folks. That was, of course, our dear friend Brooks Agnew, and always a pleasure, always exciting, always mind blowing. Every time he's got at least one thing that he'll just blow my mind with, and he did it again tonight. So hope you all enjoyed this show. We had a really strong live chat number tonight, so that was kind of cool. You guys have been very active. I know I didn't get everybody's comments up, but remember, if you want to have your comment up or you have a question for me, just put @doc and then have your question, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Yeah, it was a great night. It was a great night. And then Thursday, maybe we'll try to do a roundtable again. I really want to try to get that started. Mr. B came up with that and said, let's get a Starfleet thing. What do you call it? A fleet meeting or something, where all of us that have spaceships, that have our shows on spaceships, we all come together and have a fleet meeting or something, a roundtable. So that could be fun. Love you all. You all were amazing. I have been kind of scanning through these, but it's going really quick, so it's kind of hard to keep up. And Spaceman, thank you for the video and the alien. Those look really, really cool. And what else? I think that's about it. Other than, let me get into this. Let me do this. Where is this? You guys are awesome. Appreciate you all. Hope you enjoyed it. And Lord willing, we'll be doing this again tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel, and it'll be right after I'm doing. Oh my God, I'm gonna play. Oh, I'm gonna be substituting for Brooks Agnew on his radio show. So yeah, I gotta put on my best behavior tomorrow. Yes, I'm nervous as shit right now. And I can't curse. I'm gonna like clip some of my lips so I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. All right. I'm out of here. I appreciate you all. And after such a patriotic episode, of course, we end the show as we do every night with our national anthem. If you're wearing your hat, please remove it. And I'll see you all tomorrow. So remember, folks, as long as we all lift each other up, we will all rise together. I'm Captain Doc Skinner on board the Starship Pariah. This is the Doc Force, where we never know what the hell's going to happen next, but we just go with it. All right, I'm out of here. Where's my end button? I think, oh yes, this. Here we go. True to the light, that our flag was still there. Oh, sailors, red stars they know oh, the land of the free, and the home of the